Imagine this: little girls, just 5 years old, forced to endure excruciating pain. Their feet, still growing, were bound tightly with cloth. This tradition, called foot binding, lasted for over 1,000 years in China. It's hard to believe, but the goal was to make women's feet small and pointed, called lotus feet. This practice seems cruel and unusual today. Why would anyone do this? To understand, we need to travel back in time and explore the history of foot binding in China. Our story begins during the Tang dynasty, from 618 to 907 AD. This era is often considered a golden age in Chinese history, marked by cultural flourishing, economic prosperity, and significant advancements in art and literature. The Tang dynasty's influence extended far beyond its borders, shaping the cultural landscape of East Asia for centuries to come. Legend has it that a concubine named Yao Niang danced for the emperor. Yao Niang was not just any concubine. She was renowned for her exceptional beauty and her unparalleled dancing skills. Her performances were said to be so enchanting that they could captivate anyone who watched. She had wrapped her feet in silk, making them appear small and delicate. This practice was not common at the time, but Yao Niang's innovation would soon change that. The silk not only made her feet look smaller, but also added an element of elegance and mystique to her dance. The emperor was mesmerized by her grace and the beauty of her tiny feet. He watched in awe as she moved effortlessly across the floor, her every step a testament to her skill and poise. The emperor's admiration for Yao Niang's dance was so profound that it left a lasting impression on the court. This event, whether true or a myth, sparked a trend among the elite. The court ladies, always eager to emulate the emperor's favorites, began to wrap their feet in silk as well. This new fashion quickly spread beyond the palace walls, becoming a symbol of refinement and sophistication. Small feet became associated with beauty, grace, and high status. The practice of foot binding, initially a courtly trend, soon permeated all levels of society. It became a defining feature of Chinese beauty standards, with small feet being seen as the epitome of elegance and desirability. Women with bound feet were seen as more desirable and marriageable. This practice, though painful and restrictive, was embraced by many as a means to secure a better future. The legacy of Yao Niang's dance for the emperor thus lived on, influencing Chinese culture and beauty standards for generations. The process of foot binding was long and agonizing, a tradition that spanned centuries in China. It usually began between the ages of 4 and 7, when the bones were still soft and pliable. First, the girl's feet were soaked in hot water and herbs, a practice believed to soften the skin and make the bones more malleable. Then, her toenails were trimmed as short as possible to prevent infections, a crucial step to avoid complications. Next came the most painful part, a moment dreaded by many young girls. The 4 smaller toes were broken and folded under the foot, a process that caused excruciating pain and often led to lifelong disabilities. The arch was broken and forced into a steep curve, creating the desired lotus shape that was considered beautiful and desirable. The foot was then tightly bound with long strips of cloth, preventing it from growing naturally. These bindings had to be regularly tightened, causing continuous pain and discomfort. The process was repeated daily, ensuring the feet remained small and deformed, a symbol of status and beauty in ancient Chinese society. Initially, Foot binding was practiced mainly by the wealthy and powerful. It was a way to distinguish themselves from the lower classes. Having unbound feet became a sign of being poor or a labourer. However, the practice gradually spread to other social groups. Even peasant families, hoping for a better future for their daughters, adopted the custom. Having a daughter with bound feet, even if painful, was seen as an investment. It increased her chances of marrying into a wealthy family. Section 5. Beauty and marriage. Foot binding became deeply ingrained in Chinese culture and aesthetics. Tiny, arched feet were considered the epitome of feminine beauty. They were compared to delicate flowers, crescent moons, or even golden lotuses. Men found bound feet alluring and erotic. The swaying gait of women with bound feet was considered graceful and seductive. More importantly, bound feet signified a woman's obedience, submissiveness, and suitability for marriage. Section 6. Voices against binding. Despite its prevalence, foot binding was not without its critics. Throughout history, there were voices that spoke out against this cruel practice. They argued that it was inhumane, unnecessary, and harmful to women's health. One prominent opponent was Chu Jin, a feminist writer and revolutionary. She openly criticized foot binding as a symbol of women's oppression and called for its abolition. She even established the Chinese Women's Journal, advocating for women's rights and education. Section 7. The end of a tradition. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the movement to abolish foot binding gained momentum. Reformers, educators, and even some government officials began to recognize the practice's barbarity and its negative impact on society. With the fall of the Qing dynasty in 1911, foot binding was officially banned. The new government launched campaigns to educate the public about its harmful effects. Schools for girls were established, emphasizing education and physical activity over traditional notions of beauty. Section 8. Lasting effects. Although foot binding is a relic of the past, its legacy continues to resonate in Chinese society. Many older women still bear the physical scars of this painful tradition, their feet permanently disfigured. Beyond the physical, the psychological impact of foot binding is immeasurable. It serves as a stark reminder of the lengths to which societies have gone to control and objectify women's bodies. Section 9. Remembering the past. The story of foot binding is a complex and disturbing one. It dates back to the 10th century and continued for almost 1,000 years. This practice was deeply rooted in the cultural and social fabric of ancient China. It's a story of beauty standards, gender inequality, and societal expectations. Women were often forced to bind their feet at a young age, enduring immense pain and suffering to conform to the ideal of small, delicate feet, and the resilience of the human spirit. Despite the hardships, many women showed incredible strength and perseverance. They navigated their lives with bound feet, managing daily tasks and responsibilities. It's a story that we must remember, not only to acknowledge the suffering of countless women, but also to understand the cultural context that allowed such practices to thrive. Not only to acknowledge the suffering of countless women, but also to ensure that such practices are never repeated. The pain and deformity caused by foot binding left a lasting impact on generations of women, but also to ensure that such practices are never repeated. By reflecting on these historical injustices, we can better advocate for the rights and well-being of women today. By understanding the history of foot binding, we gain insight into the lengths to which societies will go to enforce beauty standards and control women's bodies. We can learn from the past and recognize the importance of challenging harmful traditions and norms. This awareness can help us create a more equitable world and work towards a future where all individuals are treated with dignity and respect, regardless of gender or physical attributes. We must strive to build a society that values each person for who they are, not for how they conform to arbitrary standards, regardless of gender or physical attributes. Let us remember the past, honor the resilience of those who suffered, and commit to a future of equality and compassion for all.